everyone. We're going to be going over circles today. We're going to start off with completing the square because this is important later on when we have to convert circles from different forms. So let's just get started. We have x squared plus 16x. When they say to complete the square, we're looking for what value we would add over here to be able to break this down into x plus or minus whatever here, because when we write our equations of our circle, we'll have our x plus or minus value squared, and then we have y plus minus value, because that value is going to come down to be our center. That'll make more sense in a minute. But here, we're going to take 16 and we divide it by 2, because you divide this value by 2 to get 8, because 16 divided by 2 is 8, and then we square it. So 8 squared is 64. This right here would complete this square. This right here makes it so I can go ahead and say x plus 8 squared gives me this, which is how we're going to be able to find that center of a circle later on. So right here, to complete the square of x squared plus 16x, add the number 64. Well, click the box, then add. Okay, I think the beginning of this is a bunch of like definition stuff as a refresher. For a circle, the blank is the distance from the center to any point on the circle. From the center to any point on the circle is called the radius. What options did they give us? Let's look at it. Origin, that's 0, 0. That doesn't necessarily have to deal with circles. Intercept, that doesn't really deal with circles. Unit is just what we call each space on the coordinate plane. Radius deals with circles. That's what they're looking for. Center. Diameter is the distance all the way across a circle through the center. So, the radius of the circle, x squared plus y squared equals 9, is 3. True. So the reason it is because the most basic form of a circle, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. This is true when our center is 0, 0, because we don't have anything with our x or our y to have a different center. And then r squared, so since this was 9, r squared equals 9. And the radius isn't going to be squared, so you take the square root of both sides. So r equals 3. And then they give you that formula after the fact. Okay, here's the ones I was talking about. So choose the equation of a circle with the radius 8 and the center 3, negative 6. So here is our standard form of a circle. Y minus k squared equals r squared. So this is what the equation of a circle looks like when the center isn't 0, 0. And big thing here is that these are subtract. This is the biggest thing that confuses people. So our center is hk. And since our center is 3, negative 6, our r is 8. When we go to plug this in, I put the 3 here. I have x minus 3. So I'd have x minus 3 squared plus, and this would be y subtract negative 6 squared equals 8 squared. So they're always going to want you to simplify this out. So since 8 isn't squared in B or D, those are wrong, because you have to have 8 squared. And then we're going to have y plus 6 here squared. So this one's y minus. Just remember that the original equation, it has that subtract, so you have to change it. All right, let's get this off of here. I'm going to go ahead and write our standard form of an equation up here. X subtract h squared plus y subtract k squared equals r squared. Our circle here, our center is that 3, 2. So our HK is at positive 3, 2. And our R is going to be, so the distance from the center to any spot on the circle, since this is right across from it, 1, 2, 3. Now here they want the center of the circle, HK. Type it as an ordered pair. Remember your parentheses and your comma. So we're going to have 3, 2. Next. There it is. Our radius is 3. And then they're going to ask for the standard form. So it's going to be x subtract 3 squared plus y subtract 2 squared equals 3 squared, which is 9. Okay. So x subtract 3 squared plus, it's always a plus sign between them. Somebody's asked me that before in class. Y subtract 2 squared equals, and 3 squared is 9. If you put 3 squared, it does not like it. Write the standard form of the equation and the general form of the equation of the circle of radius r, center 0, 0. Okay, this one's super easy because since HK is 0, that would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 9 squared. So it's just x squared plus y squared equals 9 squared is 81. This is our standard form. And when you do general form, you put everything on the same side of the equation. This one's nice because we didn't have to FOIL. But you'll see in a second, because I'm sure the next problem isn't this nice. So general form, we would subtract 81 over to this side. So we'd have x squared plus y squared subtract 81 equals 0. X squared subtract y squared. Why did I say plus y squared? Wrote it down right, but I'm gonna start talking in math. I didn't put 0. I was trying to put 0. Enter. Then graph this one, so all my stuff's in the way of the graph. Let's pop this up. I'm going to get rid of this arrow. So click your circle. Our center is 0, 0. And then our radius is 9, so it's going to go 9L. You don't have to graph a whole lot. You just have to mark your center and then go out however many the radius is. Here we go. This one's not going to be as fun. So the standard form of this equation, we have our h and our k. We're going to have x subtract negative 3 squared plus y subtract 0 squared equals 3 squared. So we have x plus 3 squared plus y squared equals 9. I'll do that and then I'll show you all the general. X plus 3. Be sure you put your parentheses when you have anything with them. Plus y squared equals 9. Okay. Now our general form, you have to distribute out here, like if you have anything with your x or your y, you're going to have to FOIL that. So you're going to have to do x plus 3 times x plus 3. And then we'll still have our y squared and our 9 until we get to the point where we're going to add that to it. So I'm going to go ahead and move this here. So x times x is x squared. And then you'd have x times 3, 3 times x, 3 times 3. So x squared, x times 3, 3 times x. Self-help. 3 times x, 3 times 3 to get our 9. And then I'm going to go ahead and have my plus y squared equals 9. Combine your like terms. So I'd have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals plus y squared equals 9. Now, for general form, we have to put them in order. So it's x squared plus y squared plus x plus y equals, well, constant equals 0. So we're going to have x squared plus y squared plus 6x. And I'd move this 9 over. And when I do that, I don't have a constant equals 0. So the completing the square part is if I had to go from here back to here. Because the only way to complete, like to figure out what my center was, if I have this, is to complete that square. But I think we have to do that in a couple problems anyway. So x squared plus y squared plus 6x equals 0. And then we got to graph this. So when you go to graph it, don't worry about what we just did. Use what they gave you in the beginning. So like our HK is negative 3, 0. So that's our center. So go to negative 3, 0. And then our radius is 3. So 1, 2, 3. Write the standard form of the equation and the general form of the equation of the circle with radius r and HK, then graph. Oh. Continuing. So we'd have x subtract a negative 3 squared plus y subtract a negative 4 squared equals 5 squared, which is 25. It's not what I wanted. I wanted that. So I went ahead, when I was subtracting my negatives, I changed them because we don't have a lot of board on this thing. Squared. And we need a lot of board for this next part. Equals. Okay. So right here. Go away. When we go to do our general form for this one, we're going to have x plus 3 times x plus 3, which we just did that one. And all that's going to be added to y plus 4 times y plus 4 equals 25. So let's go. X times x gives us x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus y times y is y squared. Y times 4 is 4y. Looks like a 14. 4 times y is 4y. 4 times 4 is 16, and all of this equals 25. Now I'm going to put them in order and then combine my 3x and my 4y's. My 9 and my 16. That's kind of a lot. So x squared plus y squared Then x comes before y alphabetically, so 3x plus 3x is 6x. 4y plus 4y is 8y. 9 and 16 is 25 equals 25. General form has to equal 0, so we'd move our 25 over to this side. And this is 25 as well. It's just not where it's supposed to be. So 0. So I have x squared plus y squared plus 6x plus 8y equals 0. Because my 25's canceled out. Cool. So x squared plus y squared plus 6x plus 8y equals 0. Yay. Okay. Lord help. Trash. But then we go to graph this. Remember, just look at this part right here. Don't try and get stressed out looking at our equations. So -3, -4, -3, -4. And it says it in that top corner if you're confused with where you're at. Our radius is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Save, check answer. Okay. 4 more. Write the standard form of the equation and graph the general. It's like they're almost the same. It's -3, 4. Or the other one was -3, -4. So we have x subtract -3 squared plus y subtract 4 squared equals 4 squared. So we'll go ahead and do this because it's general form if I change it right here to 16. X plus 3 squared plus y subtract 4 squared equals 16. Check. Alright, I'm going to take all of this and put it right here to work out. Okay, so I'm going to have x plus 3 times x plus 3 plus y minus 4 times y minus 4 equals 16. Surprised let me write it there. Okay. X squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. 3 times x, 3 times 3. Y times y is y squared. Y times -4. Subtract 4y. -4 times y. -4y. -4 times -4 is plus 16 equals 16. Okay, we're going to write it in order and combine like terms. So x squared plus y squared. Bam, bam. 3x and 3x because x comes before y alphabetically. So 6x, -4y, and -4y would be -8y. And then 9 plus 16 is 25 equals this 16. General form has to equal 0, so we're going to subtract our 16. So x squared plus y squared plus 6 minus 8y y equals, not equals, 25 subtract 16 is 9. Now it equals 0. Oh, look what I did. I put C instead of X, y'all. Where'd my mouse go? I need to graph it. Remember to look at what they give you to do your graph. So -3, 4, and R is 4. So click my circle. -3, +4, and then our radius is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter if you go up, down, left, or right when you're doing this. Just kind of be sure that you're not going like to some crazy area. The equation of a circle in standard form is, so HKR x minus h, which is 5 squared, plus y minus k, which is -6. I'll go ahead and write it out here. Squared equals this square root of 13 squared. And so let's simplify that real quick. This one's already simplified. When you subtract a negative, you add it. When you square square root, it goes what? So x minus 5 squared plus y plus 6 squared equals 13. In general form, of course you did that to us. But x minus 5 squared, let me get rid of this one. So we're going to have x minus 5 times x minus 5 plus y plus 6 times y plus 6 equals 13. So x squared subtract 5x, subtract 5x, negative times negative, plus 25, plus y squared, plus 6y, plus 6y, because remember this is 6, not, and then 6 times 6 is 36 equals 13. Combine our like terms and put them in order. So we have x squared plus y squared, subtract 10x plus 12y, 25 and 36. 6, 1 carry it, 61. General form has to equal 0, so we're going to subtract our 13 from our 61. So we're going to end up with x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 12y. If I subtracted just 10, I'd have 51. Then 50, 48. We're at 48. Plus 48 equals 0. X squared plus 1 squared subtract 10x plus plus 48 equals 0. Is our video still going? Alright. Oh, this one we just get a pick. So our center is 5, -6. It's probably because getting that radius of square root of 13 would be hard. So 5, -6. 5, -6. There's only one that was in that quadrant. That's why that was so easy. Okay. Find the center HK and the radius R of the circle. Graph the circle. Find the intercepts. This one doesn't have an H or a K. It just has x squared and y squared. So our center here is going to be 0, 0. And then our radius squared equals 121. So when you take the square root of that, R equals 11. So let's get that done. And then our radius is 11. This part right here, well, not the graphing part, that part's easy. So our center is 0, 0. And our radius is 11. Save to answer. Okay, intercepts. It's everything with an 11 and a -11 because you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we go. We'll go 11, 0. But real quick on this one because it timed out. I was doing intercepts, and so we had positive 11, 0, 0, 11, -11, 0, and 0, -11. Be sure when you're typing those in, lots of parentheses, lots of commas, make sure you don't miss a comma or it will flag it wrong. Last problem. A circle has the equation x squared plus y squared, subtract 3x, subtract 4y, plus 4 equals 0. Find the center HK and radius R of the circle, graph the circle, and find the intercepts. So this is our most difficult problem. Because if you remember at the very beginning, it had that question about completing the square. Well, the time has come. So we're going to complete the square. When we complete the square, we're taking this and getting it into this form. So I need to put my x's together. X squared subtract 3x. And I'm going to leave that spot right here where we're going to complete that square like we did in the very, very beginning. So then we're going to have our y squared minus 4y plus whatever completes it on this side equals. Now, since we're completing the square, nothing else can be over here, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 4. And then whatever I add here and here, I also need to add here and here. It's not super important yet because first we need to complete this. So we're going to do -3 divided by 2. That doesn't simplify, so if it does not simplify, we're going to go ahead and square it. Whenever you square a negative, it becomes a positive. So -3 times -3 is positive 9. 2 times 2 is 4. So that's what completes this square. That's what we would plug in here and here. But let's go ahead and complete this one. And then we'll rewrite it. So -4 divided by 2. That one does simplify to -2. And so when we square -2, -2 times -2 is positive 4. And that's what completes that square and goes here and here. Now when I go to write it in my binomial form, this form, whatever is squared, what we squared is what we're going to put in here. So I'm going to have x subtract 3 over 2 squared. Because x was squared and we squared this -3 over 2. Then it's always a plus sign between these. And then what we squared here, we have y squared and this -2 squared. So it's going to be y subtract 2 squared. And then to get our radius, we have to combine these terms over here. So I have -4 and 4. So those two are going to make 0. And then we have 9/4. So right here is our equation in standard form. So our radius, well, let's go ahead. Let's take our h and our k from here. So when we completed our square, we found our h and we found our k. So our h is going to be -3, 2. And then our k is -2. Now our radius is going to be the square root of 9/4. Because in standard form, r is squared. So right now it's r squared, so we take the square root. When you take the square root of a fraction, you take the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. So the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 4 is 2. So this is our radius. Let's go ahead and get all that typed in. So we have -3/2, common -2. I'm leaving this because this is like one of the most common mistakes and it's exactly what I did. So it's not -3/2 and -2 because the formula, the equation, the standard form is subtracts. Since both of these are subtract, that means these aren't negatives, they're positives. Oh man, so I'll just rewrite it real quick. So it's gonna be +3/2 and +2 because since it subtracts here, this is subtracts, so it's positives. So let's edit it real quick. Get rid of the negatives because it's positive. Okay. That's one of the most common errors. So I try, like, if I saw that, I would give you credit for it. Well, partial credit because it's not 100% right, but. This one, when we graph it, we need this, so let's move it right here. And then we need this. So our center is 3/2, 2. So they're gonna have this one in decimals, so 1.5, and then be sure you go all the way up to 2 and not just 1 since they're going by halves. And then since it is 3/2, you're gonna have 1/2, 2/2, 3/2. So check. But our intercepts, oh man. So much. We're just looking at where it crosses the axes. And it doesn't cross an axis here, it doesn't cross an axis anywhere over here because it's in that quadrant. Only place it's going to is going to be right here at 2 on the y-axis, so 0,